So we're almost at a wrap. That's 20 years of SCaLE, 21. Thank you. I don't know. We were all we had a break in 2021 with COVID, which I know we're all excited to be out of the house again. 2022, we had to take a little bit of step back, go back to a summer event at the Hilton LAX, which is a great venue. Just doesn't fit you all in the room like we can here. So we're excited to be back to our home in Pasadena. But we spent a lot of time this week in our keynotes and in our sessions talking a little bit about the history of our community, of the software that we use, of the relationships we built, how we got to where we are today. Ken, I think, will continue a little bit of that. Ken Thompson will continue a little bit of that story with us. But wanted to go back a little bit, just a second, look back at SCaLE history. This is about 21 years ago. I had much less hair, I guess, although I'm going to get back to that amount of hair at some point, I imagine, starting to go. But yeah, almost everybody that's in this picture is still here in SCaLE in some way or another, and you probably see them in the halls, might even be in this room. I can't see among the crowd, but that's SCaLE 1 over at USC. It says November 2nd, 2002. So a lot of it's been interesting watching the industry change over the years. Logos come and go, speakers come and go, but love welcoming the community back every year and making new friends. So with that, also wanted to take a moment. How many of you folks have noticed the new artwork around SCaLE this year, some of the new designs? This is what's interesting. The interesting thing about all these new graphics that we've got this year is they've been done 100% with free and open source software using projects like Inkscape. The program that you have in your hands was developed using Scribus for the page layout and the printing. Everything end to end, and that's the very hard work of two gentlemen that are not here. They did all of this work for the last 8 months on all these designs, and then even though they couldn't make it to SCaLE, so wanted to do a big shout out for Chris Rogers, who's and Josh Andler, and I think they're watching the live stream, but they just unfortunately couldn't make it out to LA this week. So, and those are just two of the probably 100 some odd volunteers, maybe even more, that make SCaLE happen year round. So if this is an event that you're enjoying, that you think that you'd like to see continue to happen, please do reach out after the show. We're always looking for more hands for next year, and it could be something as simple as, ushering people into the room and helping them find seats, to helping us with the graphics, to helping us with the network, the program selection, all of that. As we know from our open source communities and our free software communities, many hands make for light work, and this event wouldn't be possible without those volunteers and without the community that helps make SCaLE happen. So thank you. So yeah, please do. It's just info at SoCal Linux Expo, or click the volunteer link on our website. You too can help make SCaLE 21 even better. Next year, SCaLE can drink, I guess. So before we get on to the rest of this, I know there's quite a few of you went through and did that Expo Hall Passport program. Not that many of you got all the answers right, although I did find, as I'm looking at these, I realized that some of the questions have the answers in them. So if you missed those, I'm a little disappointed. It's like not getting your name right, not getting the points for your name at the top of the SATs, I think. But yeah, so we've had a couple really cool prizes here. The first is I've got a couple backpacks here really nice backpacks here from the Bitwarden team. How many folks know or are using Bitwarden for keeping their passwords secure? So these are some really amazing Bel-Ray bags, entirely leatherless, but seem like they're amazing quality, lots of pockets and such. And so you do have to be present to win these, but is there a Shang-Lin Chen in the room? Cool. Come on up for a second. There's yours. So thank you to the Bitwarden team for that. hang around. I think we're going to do a picture of all the winners in just a second, if you don't mind. Yeah, just stay for a second. Sam Coleman. Man, Sam is the luckiest, either the hardest working Expo Passport person alive or the hardest working or both. Sam, where are you? Sam last year won a laptop. Sorry. Whoever wants, if you want to win this prize next year, you just gotta follow Sam around and write down his answers, cheat off of him. He must have gotten. Is there PhD in conference swag or education or maybe? Okay. And then I got one more for. There's no last name on this. You can't. I don't. I'm sure there's. We're gonna have to. Sorry. Eric Lawrence. So thanks, Eric. Awesome. Enjoy. And he was working hard. I think he came back like 3 or 4 times. He's like, I know they're not on the expo floor. They're not there. And I was like, can I get some hints? And yeah. So. Yeah. No worries. No worries. We're very appreciative of our sponsors, but they also had talks and other things. So anyways, congrats. So for our final prize, I want to call up Kyle just for a second. And for those of you that don't know Kyle, he's been giving talks at SCaLE for many years. He's also the president at Purism. Some might say his talks are explosive. But before we call out the winners of the prize, would you mind just telling us really quick, maybe just in a couple seconds, what they're winning and why it's awesome?
Sure, yeah. So no explosions this year compared to last year, which is great, just a giant Sean head in my talk. But other than that, no unusual things. Yeah, what they're winning is a Purism Librem 5 USA phone, which is made in USA Electronics. We designed a phone from the ground up to run free software. It runs 100% free software, Linux distribution, Pure OS, and a lapdock kit. And so you can dock your phone to this laptop dock, and it turns it into a laptop. It's what I've been using for my personal laptop for like 2 years now. Instead of a personal laptop, I have my phone, and then when I want to type a long email, I dock it, and it's a laptop. That's what they're getting.
This is what, like a $2,000 phone, if I recall correctly, plus the dock. So this is the grand prize, and so I hope this person is here. Leif Davison. Cool. Come on up. So Peter, you want to just get a picture from us up front here? Cool. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I did promise the Purism folks that there would be a picture of you with the prize winners. So why don't we just do a quick shot here for Peter and the team? So thank you. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully your seats are still there. I think you might have won prizes, but you might have lost your seats.
Thanks, man.
And honestly, that's one of the things I love about our community. We have folks coming back year after year, and even as their roles change or their interests change or their focuses change, they're back here to keep sharing with us. I think, Kyle, what was it, SCaLE 11, you were our keynote speaker about 3D printing and spoken about everything from security to electronics to privacy to, again, 3D printing. So it's great to have folks back year after year. Awesome. So let's transition here. As I mentioned, we've got Ken Thompson joining us, and I feel like I don't have to make an introduction because you've packed the room already, and you're already fighting over seats to get to know him. But this is one of my favorite parts. I mean, my favorite part of SCaLE is I get to see all of you every year and have this reunion with our 3,000 or so closest friends and family and do that. And so we missed that when we had to take a break. But the second favorite piece is I get to meet every year is I get to meet somebody that's really just helped enable something foundational in our industry that, people that are, whether it's new legends or old legends, and Ken Thompson's definitely one of those. He's, like I said, got a long resume that he'll talk with us about today, but everything from creating Unix or co-creating Unix to being being part of UTF-8, Plan 9, Golang. How many folks are developing in Golang these days? I think I saw a headline this morning that it's in the top 10. It's in the top 10 languages being for new software development right now. So that's obviously lots of impactful work. But Ken, why don't you or come join us on stage and share the story in your own words. And sorry, apologies.
Can I take half the stage here?
Of course.
Half of this stage.
And then you have your clicker right here. So
Okay.
if you'd like it. If not, just forward back. Awesome. So without further ado, I give you Ken Thompson. Thanks again for too close to the speaker. Thanks again for everybody.
Well, thank you, everybody. I don't do this often or much, and it scares the hell out of me when I do. So bear with me on stage fright. This is my first slide. Now, it's not a normal first slide. Normally, there's a title and a person, things like that, where I live, where I work, whatever. So I had a running title of my 75-year project. This is a project I worked on for 75 years. Now, if you subtract 75 from 2023, you get 1940 something, and that's thus the date of the slide. Now, every project starts with financing, and so this is the horse fund. The horse fund is the financing for this project. So anyway, I went on and built the rest of the slide, right, the rest of the project, and I came back to the front slide, and I was going to fill it in, and right now this is a draft. And I realized that this is the first draft of the first Google slide I have ever made. And I didn't want to destroy it. So this is the slide. And now, I guess I'll start the talk and tell you what the horse fund is. The horse fund is, of course, the financing of my project. Now, it starts, I'm not that old, but it starts when I was in elementary school or even preschool. And my family, and I guess many families or even most families, when there was a family gathering, they'd give the little kids a present or something like that. And in our family, it was always $1. You got $1, and I guess it was payola for going to the family reunions or whatever they were. So I have an older brother and a yet older sister who would get this money, right? And now my sister was hand to mouth, and the money barely made it to the store. How many of you know the Stanford marshmallow experiment? Okay, well, she was a failure. She was she was #1 poster child. All right, so, and my brother saved for a horse. He was a horse fiend and wanted to buy a horse and ride a horse and everything. So it got the name of a horse fund. And I got money too, and I called mine a horse fund too, even though I didn't care about horses at all. Now these are us, and this is my brother at 14 when he cashed his horse fund in for this car right behind there. That's his horse. And this is Texas, so you could get a license and a car at 14, and he did. And that's my sister, and that's me. I'm trying to figure out which way to go. It's not working. Put it down. Aha, wrong way. Okay, now this is my horse. I bought one of the first commercially available tape recorders ever produced. It cost me $127, and that is times about 11 and a half cost of living adjustment, whatever you call those things. And I loved it. I took it everywhere. And I was 14 at the time. Complete with spare reels and tape splicing kits, and it comes in around 30 pounds, and so it's technically portable. It has a handle, but not that portable. Now I took it to everything, absolutely everything. Am I going to go the right direction again? Yes, I took it to everything. I recorded everything. Mostly I recorded music, but I was in a small band, and there was 3 of us. Calling that a band is probably a huge exaggeration. And it was the voice of a robot I built. Here's my robot, if I can get it. There, that's me and my robot. And it was the voice of my robot. And it was also the remote control. It had remote control, but it was real time. You had to push a button to get it to do something. And it was the sequencing of the remote control so you could follow a track, see, and stuff like that. So that's that part. Now, time goes on. We're in 1982. I used that tape recorder probably 10 years, 15 years. I mean, it was used. In 1982, CDs came out. And in particular, there was a Time Life Best of Year series that came out. And I was just utterly impressed with CDs. I learned how they worked, and the lasers for them, and it was just fascinating. But mainly, I was well into computers by this time, and I did the calculation, and if you multiply 2 bytes per sample times stereo mono 2 times 44.1K, which is the number of samples per second, times 3600, which is the number of seconds in an hour, you come up with 600, which is about the size of a CD an hour, maybe more. You come up with around 600 megabytes on a CD, and I was just drooling for that because that was orders of magnitude over whatever you could use, whatever you do. So I was particularly interested in that. One of these days I'll get the right one. All right, so anyway, this is an example of the particular CD that I was very interested in at the time. It was 1957, all the best music of 1957. I thought that would be a great thing to do, to collect all the music of 57 rather than the 10 or 12 that were in this, on this CD. Now I know I'm on the right one. I give. I'll go back first. It's my fault. Which is the button? Oh, okay, right. I gotcha. Okay, now, not enough space up here. All right. In 1985, this is an adjacent department called the acoustic department at Bell Laboratories. It was a sister department to ours, and they were into audio for various reasons, all sorts of audio. But mainly, a guy named J.J. Johnson did an encoding called PAC, for perceptual audio encoding, and it was based on a model of the ear, and it had one knob on it that's how close the compressed code would be to the model of the ear. And so the better you made the model, the more accurate it was to not making mistakes and things like that. And it was actually very good. It predated MP3 by, half a dozen years there, and it was actually very, very good. The speedometer on it for how many bits it had to take to do whatever it was expected to do was rated in dB. So it was an exponential scale away from the ear. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to decide whether I'm going to push down the thing for a second. Okay. Now I wanted to use it, and so I got buddy-buddy with the designers of this, and I found an old design for an old modified DSP. Anyway, I had it redesigned by a guy, Skylar Quackenbush, and built a board. No computer in those days could decode in real time PAC or MP3, but it wasn't there, so it's okay. And they especially couldn't encode in real time, but you could encode in the background, take the data, MP3 PAC, and then come out. And so this DSP was fast enough to do the job. I had an audio section put on it so it can make noise, and then a general purpose bus, a SCSI bus, to connect. Okay, this is a picture of it. It's in, and most of the incarnations of this were in a what you would call today a external box for a CD or a disc or something that you put on next to your computer, and it used the power supply. This is an external CD drive replaced with a PAC card. It stole the power for the CD drive, and then there was a SCSI bus that I've taken off, but it's that back panel card. There's the card up in the upper right hand, the cable, and that cable goes from there to whatever you're connecting. And this is a SCSI disk that's being emulated by a 1G, monster 1G RAM. So anyway, that's just one incarnation, but there were many, many incarnations of this thing. There was one that had a 3.5-inch floppy and a drive, and you'd walk up, and a floppy was just about the size of a song. It was 1.5 megabytes, which is just about an encoded song at good quality. You'd plug it in, it would play the song, and then spit it out. And you'd just go through a pack of 3.5 discs and plug it in and play. So it was like a digital record, in fact, is what it was. So this was my digital tape recorder, and it brought me back memories of my old tape recorder. And I got Bell Labs to buy a CD burner. It was one of the very, 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 very first. It cost $20,000. Those are different dollars than you think now because it. And MSSP is a mistake. It's supposed to be SMP. Sorry, it's a multiprocessor. Bell Labs had ordered a multiprocessor for evaluation, and it sat around for months and months, and nobody really liked it, so it was going to be evaluated no. And we tried to find the manufacturer, and they went out of business, and they didn't have a phone number, they didn't have a person, so it just sat there for years, actually. And it was fast, the multiprocessor was fast enough to do the decoding. So I bought two really fast CD rippers, right? And put them on this thing and ask everybody in all of Bell Labs to come in and just stick their CD collection into the hole, right? And I sucked it up, put it down, and then throw away the dupes and things like that. Then looked, tried to find out what they were, tried to label them, and then everybody started getting worried about copyright, little things like that. So I took it to the legal department, and they passed on it. I was very surprised, but I wasn't going to question them. There is there are several exception clauses in the copyright, and one of them is research. And this is a research institute doing research on audio, so I can steal CDs, right? Next step, okay. This is, remember, 75 years. There was a magazine called Billboard, and it was the audio record music rag. It was everything. And in it, every week, it was weekly, every week was a top 100 most popular songs of the day, right? And anyway, I got looking at it, and I said, well, I have a bunch of 57 songs from that first CD I showed you. Let's see what we can do. I'll take all of 1957, see if I can get it, right? So I went off, and this is a page out of a 1957 week of Billboard magazine. And it goes on, it's got top 100, but it's multiple pages, things like that. So anyway, I sat down and I typed in, I got a hold of copies of 50 Billboard magazines. And I'm just up here to prove that I'm crazy. And typed them all in and made beautiful metadata of the records. All the artists were spelled correctly. All the titles were spelled correctly, all of that. I shouldn't say this, but I had good secretarial help at that day. And so I got the year. And I called it the list, right? TL. The list. I want to just abbreviate here. So this is the start of the list. It was all of the 1957 CDs, but it was no more. I didn't expand it, right? I mean, it was a finite thing. And then I went out to try to find those finite records, songs. And in that time, oldies CDs were very popular, so you could pull them in and there'd be like 15 songs on it, and there'd be 7 of them on the list. So that was a hit. But then you'd buy 45 records, which were still very popular, and digitize them and put them on. But then you'd have to buy one CD to get one song. So it went on. It was kind of okay. I would end up with songs in the list. And then other songs I got because they came that weren't in the list, and that was kind of a trash list that I kept. So I had two things of songs, one with very good metadata, and one just a pile, just a heap, which went with the songs that I'd ripped from Okay, anyway, after I got to where it was hard to get another song, I counted them up, and I got about 80% of the 1957 songs, and I called that a success. And I was done. I had 1957 cooked, all in pack, all implemented, various implementations of this box, and I was done, right? Okay, but it needed input. Just turning it on and running it, you know, it was kind of stupid. So anyway, I was in Toms River, New Jersey, at some street fair, and there were 2 AMI remotes. I won't quite tell you what they are yet. For sale, no guarantees, buy them, walk away, that's it. I bought one, and of course, I should have bought 2. And this is it. It's the thing that goes on 50s diners, jukebox tables, and you push the buttons and it goes in, and it's got 10 pages. Those are I'm supposed to have a laser here. There, right there, there's 10 pages, and you sweep those from left to right, and it changes the titles, and then it's got 20 buttons, so it's 200 songs. And to be honest, AMI killed Wurlitzer, which was the one button, one song jukebox, because they could put 200, you know, anyway, that's aside. So I had this on my PAC, you know, DSP machine, and to audio with, you know, and I had 200 songs, which of course were all 1957 songs. It was cool, you know. It was a real, you know, it was cool. It was good, you know. All right. Then a very, very bad thing happened. A guy named Joel Whitburn in a company called Audio Research, something like that, made a book of billboards, same book I used, same magazine I used, of all of them from 1955, and that's a typo, that's 59, all right? And so I just couldn't pass it up. That's his thing, right? So I sat down and typed in 55, 56, 58, 59, okay, right? And put them in, added them to the list, started looking for CDs again, and anyway, when that list was done, I got about 75%. I didn't work as hard. I didn't work as hard as I could have, so I called it a success. But then the son of a bitch published 4 more full-decade books. Now, be the truth, this is still in the 80s, and the last decade book didn't come out until 1990, you know, 1991. But or 2000, right? After that decade. So I actually had to wait for the last one, but he published those first 3 instantly, and he wiped me out for weeks and weeks and weeks. So far everything is in PAC, and I'd been testing musics and songs and things. PAC was being sold or attempted to be licensed by AT&T at this point, and it was going into these audio testing suites, right, where they have these guys called Golden Ears is their name, and what they are people who can hear everything about a song, all the nuances about a song. And they come and they say, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. And the winner wins something, right? And PAC was selected for 3 projects, right? One was FM digital audio, and which never came about. They never passed the FAA thing. It was just never made into a thing, although we were ready for it. The second was Sirius XM, download of you know, probably 90% of you know it. Anyway, it's still using PAC, probably the only installation of PAC. I think it has, you can't, there's no way you can look and ask them what your protocol is. but it started off as PAC. And anyway, so I had 4 songs that I considered to be an expert on these 4 songs, that I heard all the... I knew these songs. I mean, I knew them because I played them probably 50 times a day in debugging everything, all of this, everything we've done now. And this is, how many years? We started out about 85, so this is 15, this is a lot of years. And I knew these 4 songs. And I could tell when I couldn't differentiate the song from the original. And when that happened, I would call it transparent. That's a technical term, which is my subjective version of I can't tell the difference. And for PAC to go transparent on my 4 songs, it came in at about a 10-to-1 compression ratio versus full stereo PCM. Now MP3 came along earlier than this, maybe 10 years earlier, and I'd been testing it for transparency. We're way up to there, and I was giving it all the bandwidth it wanted or could use, or even gave it more than that, and it never went transparent. And in fact, at some point, if you give it more bandwidth, it would get worse. And until 2000, when the lame encoder came out, and I could make it go transparent at 6-to-1, much worse than PAC, but much more portable than PAC, right? You could get MP3 decoders everywhere. And I'd been trying for 10 years to try to get an MP3 encoder good enough to re-encode my list. And then lame came along, and lo and behold, it happened. All right. Anyway, so I don't know why. I really don't know why. I had 1955 to 1999, and I decided I was going to expand it from 1900 to 1999. And you start getting into some troubles there. Before 1925, sound reproduction was acoustical. It was, you scraped things and you heard, And after that, it was electronic. 25 was, And so I started collecting records, not record, that's a bad word because it has so many synonyms, listings of things that you could relate to popularity because there was no billboard back there. And I collected sheet music and piano rolls and early record sales, and then I started, and I made the list. I actually made the list. It was a bunch of dubious splice fitting to get this thing into one, whole list that kind of looked good. I won't defend it, but it weighed heavily on a whole bunch of fishy application of Zipf's law, if you know Zipf's law. So now, my TL is 1990, 1900. It's 20th century. My TL is the 20th century. Didn't go down. Okay, there we are. So, I happened to be in another, walking on the street. I was in a pinball arcade in Dixon, California. Again, no guarantees. I found for sale, take it, no guarantees, a 1952 Wurlitzer jukebox. It's a beautiful one. It's about this tall. It's just magnificent. And there was an internet at that time, so I could get schematics and I knew what was inside. I could find out what's inside. The previous one, the AMI remote, I got nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. I don't think I need them anymore. So this is it. The control panel, which is the lower half of the transparent part, is gone there. And the reason is because after very careful look, I didn't think I could reproduce it with its original control panel. So I took the control panel out. This is the control panel up on stilts. And I put in the rough equivalent of iPad displays. The left one has a display, the right one's vacant. And it's got, you know, all the thing. Now, my first attempt at this jukebox is to push a button, play a record, and have the record mechanism come up. First off, you have to put a quarter in. I wasn't going to let them do for free, right, Jed? and the record would come up, and it had a stack of 78 records that came with it, and it'd pull one of the records out at random, bring it up, connect it to the thing, ignore all of that, and then play an MP3 record that corresponded to it. So anyway, now I had 24 buttons and a computer for this thing, and I decided to expand the list. And so I put in the list as best as I could. I put in rhythm and blues, 42 to 99, and country and western, 42 to 99. And at this point, the list was 60,000 songs. And these were, I mean, this is very different than saying I got 60,000 songs on my iPad. You know, this is a list of specific 60,000 songs that I attempted to get one at a time. And with the help of the internet now, again, the internet saved me. I got 99% of them. They're there. All right, now, next chapter. In 2020, a friend of mine's mother died. Now, anyway, when the friend was going through, you know, what you do when somebody dies, they found a garage, and in the garage they found a player piano. And I said, I'll take it. You know, then nobody wanted it. It didn't work. I said I'd take it, you know, to see how it is. It's another input-output device, right? It was just in too bad a shape. It was horrible, you know. It was just impossible to restore it or do anything with it. So I abandoned that, but in my pushed by this episode, I found a company in Tennessee that you go on their website and they have a bunch of old player pianos. I mean, they have a bunch of old pianos, player or not. They have grand pianos and uprights and all sorts of pianos. You can buy them restored, except they're not restored, right? You buy them and then they will restore them. And at the end, it's very nice. It's like a no-lose game. You put in like a quarter of the money, of the full money, and then they'll run off and restore it. And then you'll examine it or like it or not like it, whatever it is. And then you can do one of three things after the restoration is done. You can say, no, get your money back and walk away. You can say, no, but I want you to do another one. I want you to do a different one. And then you could take your money and move it to the different one, and then they would start restoring that one, take another year for doing that. Or you can buy your piano with 3/4 of the money, you know, that was missing. Anyway, so that's this company. It's great. And so I bought a player piano. This is the original it's a 1908 Berrywood. I'm sure that means nothing to everybody. But it's backlit. These are windows like church windows, and they're backlit, and it's very nice. It's a pretty piano, and it's in those days no plastic, no, you know, it's wood. It's beautiful. Anyway, it was restored, and we accepted it, and it had a it had a player automation in it, right? Modern, that would pound on the keys and play notes. But it also came with an absolutely horrid, terrible app on your iPhone, where you have to pull out your iPhone and go scribbling through and say, I want to play that one, you know. And it was like on your screen, you'd get like a selection of 2. And then you'd roll it up and you'd get 2 more, and you'd roll it up and you get 2 more. It was beyond horrid. So I cut it out and went behind it with a MIDI interface run by a Raspberry Pi that took UDP. You know, UDP is just send a message and hope somebody gets it kind of thing. But it's in my house at one gig around my house, and someone who wanted to play the player piano would take the MIDI, which is a file system format for playing music, and decode it, most of its timing, you know, to get all the timing, and then it would send one of 2 messages to the player piano: put a key down, put a key up. So that was the player piano was just a dummy to bang on keys, and then the actual playing was done in some peripheral somewhere, like in a laptop or something like that. And then I needed some MIDI files to play, right? So I searched the web for all MIDI files, because there's no such thing as a piano-only MIDI file, and got maybe 60 to 100,000 files. I never counted them, so I don't know. And these are downloadable .MIDI files from the web that you just get if you do a search. And then I went through and I wrote a MIDI interpreter, which I had already, because to play the MIDI, and found all of those that are all piano, because you don't want orchestration and drums and stuff like that in there. And that turned out to be 13,000 files. Most of them are horrible, and a lot of them are duplicates, because the whole MIDI community just steals from each other, you know. And so each one of them wants the biggest pile of MIDI files they can, and as soon as they find somebody with a bigger pile, they bring it over. And so most of it's it's duplicates. The popular things had like 20 duplicates, but the unique things are unique. So anyway, I selected a few and put them in the list. Okay, the list. And okay, this is a player of the result, and I'm not sure how to do this. This is my jukebox. There it is, with the two iPads in it, with the 24 buttons. This is my wife. That's voice search, it says.
Tiger lilies.
And she said tiger lilies. And over here comes up tiger lilies. She plays tiger lilies. You know this one? So that's part of the list. That's called stop.
Maple rag.
And the blue ones are pianos. Okay, that's my talk on my 70-year project, 75-year project. I have no idea what time it is, and if I have time, I'll take questions. Anybody wants to talk about anything?
We do have some time for a couple questions.
Okay.
One did come over the internet, and Hannah is somewhere around here with a mic. But the question is, given your love of music, or at least of technology around music, what music do you listen to when you are working on this technology? Or when you're coding or designing or building player pianos?
I don't know how it goes. At times, when I was building the older parts of the list, I loved 30s. I mean, there was some strange stuff in the 30s. There was no censors in the 30s. I don't know if you knew that, but and they talked about what they wanted to talk about.
Awesome. Awesome. Somewhere in the back, I see. Okay. Back there.
During the Unix wars, what was Bell Labs thinking about the whole conflict with the BSD people, even though they, I think, used some BSD components in the research Unix?
I'm not sure I understood that, but I guess so what was the Unix? What was Bell Labs doing with the DSP?
Or with BSD, yeah, because I think I heard there was some conflict with AT&T and Berkeley.
No, AT&T and Bell Labs were the same people.
Yeah, I mean, like BSD and Berkeley. I mean, yeah, BSD and Bell Labs.
BSD, oh, it had nothing to do, this was way before BSD ever existed. And the DSP was digital single processor. It's a chip that is hard to, I think its only feature is it's hard to program. I'm sorry if my D came out as a B.
Stand up. It's on. Just keep your hands raised.
So
and hand will come
basically, considering that you have this library that is so large and you're still trying to get more for your player piano, would you actually make it an open bounty for those that want to make
There's
a MIDI
no
file for
hope
it?
of that. It's so copyrighted, it's pathetic. I'm sorry. That's so far over my head. I can't even talk about it.
Hello. How much code do you write today? And if so, what are you working on?
Oh, I write a lot of code all the time. I've worked on a more usable RAID disk, RAID controller for a disk. And I've worked on, I collect video. I work on, I can't, you got me at the wrong time. But I work on chess, computer chess, and chess in games. And I have a farm of Raspberry Pis that I use to do parallel computation of chess in games, things like that. Right now, I have 2 houses and I'm getting rid of one. And in it, I have all of the CDs that I bought for what we just talked about. And it is 5 double cabinets, and about this tall, with about 7 or 8 drawers, and the drawers are packed without CD cases, CDs. Okay? And on my way back to where I live, I am going to, I have a project that I've got 28 fast CD readers. And some of the old Raspberry Pis that I have from chess stuff, and I'm going to, just put them in. All my, probably 10,000 CDs, put them in, and get them in a digital form, and then just take the whole pack of CDs down to some music shop and say, here.
Well, I think one question was asked there, and I saw on the Twitter stream was, what language were you using when you developed all this?
All Go.
All Go. So there you go. Cool.
Ken, I've done a lot of research with the early GCC developers, and nobody remembers what compiler the first versions of GCC were bootstrapped on. It could well have been one of yours. Can you tell us right now whether you have a backdoor into every copy of GCC on Linux still today?
I assume you're talking about some paper I wrote a long time ago. No, I have no backdoor. That was very carefully controlled because there was some spectacular fumbles before that. I got it released, or I got somebody to steal it from me in a very controlled sense, and then tracked, whether they found it or not, and they didn't. But they broke it because of some technical effect, but they didn't find out what it was and then track it. Now, so it never got out, if that's what you're talking about. I hate to say this in front of a big audience, but
We're all friends here, and they all signed NDAs on the way in, so it's fine.
the one question I've been waiting since I wrote that paper is, have you got the code? Never been asked. I still have the code.
Go ahead.
Any questions?
So just a comment. You might want to keep those CDs for, I don't know, copyright or
You sell
litigation.
CDs. That's all gone under copyright. They've lost that.
All right.
But,
Well, okay. So I think this is awesome. I'm just
well, I
wondering-
collected them for research. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm wondering if you have the velocity information on the keys when you push down on the MIDI information. Is that included in the piano scrolls that you have? Or
There's no scrolls. It's played by MIDI.
Right.
It's played by UDP.
okay.
And I don't understand.
Maybe I don't either. But is there a velocity information in the MIDI?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, good.
The down key has a velocity impact volume, it's called, I think. It has a key, which key, and it has a down or an up opcode. That's MIDI. It's called an element, a MIDI element. And there are only, there's like only 2 MIDI elements, but then there's 1,000 things like, there's pedals, playing with the pedals, and MIDI gets very, very contorted down towards the minuscule, but up front, it's down, up.
Hey, Ken. What's your operating system of choice today?
I have for most of my life, because I was sort of born into it, run Apple. All right, now recently, meaning within the last 5 years, I've become more and more and more depressed, and what Apple is doing to something that should allow you to work is just atrocious, but they are taking a lot of space and time to do it, so it's okay. And I have come within the last month or two to say, even though I've invested, a zillion years in Apple, I'm throwing it away, and I'm going to Linux, to Raspbian in particular. Anyway, I'm half transitioned now.
For your music collection, would you consider donating it to a library like the Internet Archive? They also have tooling for helping to root the CDs.
That question was answered by copyright. No, there's just, you mean the actual discs?
Yeah, the physical media.
I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure anybody, I want somebody who can use them, who wants them.
Cool.
I think a lot of, is it working? Yeah, I think a lot of people may have come here and thought, okay, Ken's going to talk a lot about, what you're most known for and these sorts of things. And I'd say that's probably the common thing to do. But, maybe it's too personal of a question, but, in deciding what you're going to give to this group? Is there any particular idea behind it, or is
No,
it
no, I
just
was
to say
actually-
how quirky you were?
I apologize. This is not on your, your menu. I've worried about giving this talk, but in the past, I have very often given talks that have nothing to do with where I've given them. I don't know have anybody heard the alligator talk? Or the, what's another one? There's one other. Yeah. I'm sorry, Matt.
So was the PAC the encoding format that Rob Pike was trying to get publicized that some lawyer called him up and went, no way?
Yes, on a release of a Plan 9 CD, in the Plan 9 source was a PAC encoder and a PAC decoder, and it took up the Plan 9 took up about 100 meg of this 300 meg, 400 meg CD, and I filled the rest with music. The rest was just full music. And it came down, stomped on by the lawyers so bad that it, So the answer is yes and no.
So, yeah, when building out the TL, I assume you did a lot of stuff with music metadata. Have you used MusicBrainz or contributed to MusicBrainz at all?
No, I have used, yes, I've used it recently for the R&B and the country and western, but my stuff predated that stuff, and I used it for that, and I'm very grateful, but the answer is no before that, outside of that.
So now that you have the player piano, do you have plans for a next edition?
No.
Awesome. I think we've got.
Okay, so how many Raspberry Pis do you have currently then?
I'm sorry, it's too loud, I couldn't hear you. It's too
How many
disturbing.
Raspberry Pis do you have currently?
I have my bulk Raspberry Pis in a little stack of 4 with, they're built up with little pieces of metal. And I have 12 of those stacks of 4, all the same. They're Raspberry Pi 4s, 4G, right? So that's the bulk of my bulk stuff. But then I've been collecting Raspberry Pis for, a long time. The AMI is run by a Raspberry Pi A. It was a PAC at first, but then as soon as Raspberry Pi came in, the very first Raspberry Pi runs the AMI remote, the little jukebox, and I've got B's and C's. So I probably have, not counting the bulk, I probably have 20 around the house doing things like UDP to the player piano, UDP from the network, to MIDI to the player piano, things like that. So I probably have, I don't know, is the answer, I guess. Yeah, a lot. I use them for everything.
Ken, I want to thank you very much for this talk. I mean, you didn't know this about me, but I have 2 player pianos, a Nickelodeon, a Wilcox & White Symphony player reed organ that also uses a roll, and a push-up, which is a unique instrument that I will write you about. But I will also point out that since 1994, I've been giving a talk called Why is Linux Like a Player Piano? It's very good. There's a lot of synergy in Linux and player pianos and pianos in general, and I'd be happy to give that talk next year.
Thanks, Mad Dog. I think that's the first CFP submission for 2023, or 2024, that is. So I think we're up at 4 o'clock. I know there's lots of hands and lots of questions, and I want to make sure that we're being respectful of Ken Thompson's time. So with that, thank you again for joining us. Before you run off, I got a few things for you.
Oh, great.
One of our traditions is to welcome our keynote speakers to the SCaLE family or the team with a jersey.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Got your name on the back.
Oh.
And the SCaLE logo on the front.
Where's my number?
Huh?
Thank you very much.
So, so we hope you will with that, and I don't know how to connect that one. Our keynote speaker this morning was doing electronic controlled clothing, and she said she was going to find a way to make their jersey work in that. I don't know how to connect that jersey to your player piano just yet, but you are a creative. You seem to be very creative, and we'll probably come up with a way to do so. So with that, thank you very much for joining us for SCaLE 20.